All right, guys, today I have Ty from Other Kinds of Money, and he's going to talk to us a little bit more about cryptocurrency and the cryptocurrency world, because that's what he does. What's up, Tyler? How's it going tonight, buddy?
What's up? Great. How are you doing today? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, of course. So I'm going to jump right ahead with just a couple of questions, and, you can go off topic or off the question as much as you want. My camera just started recording, so I'm going to click it back. So tell us like your story. How did you get into crypto? Just explain how life steered you in that direction.
Yeah, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I'll try to stay on the right course. So when I first graduated school, I was working in Silicon Valley, and right next to my apartment was this big billboard that said, "Got Bitcoin." And so I was, what is Bitcoin, right? And so when I was doing my research at the time, this was, a while ago, in the early days, and everything that would pop up was just kind of fishy, right? Is like, big exchange hack, someone hacked. And I was like, I'm not going to throw my money at this. Like, this sounds like a waste. Like, sure, if I throw $500 at this or $100, like, am I ever going to be able to pull it out? And so that was my first experience with it. But as time went on, a couple years later, I kept meeting people over and over again.
What time was that, by the way, when you saw that sign? Like, which year are we talking about?
2014.
Okay.
Yep. And then a few years later, I kept meeting people. More and more people kept talking about it. And then in 2017, it was one of my coworkers. I was talking to him about it. I was like, "Have you heard about this Bitcoin thing? It sounds awesome." He goes, "Yeah, I bought someone like 5 years ago." I'm like, 5 years ago? What the heck? Like, why are you still working here? But so that started the conversation. And then no more than a week later, I was at a bar and I was sitting next to these Bitcoiners who were there from the early stages. And I was talking to them. They must have been, multimillionaires, potentially. At that point, not billionaires. I imagine billionaires. Yeah. And I was just so fascinated by the money go up, like the price go up technology. Like Bitcoin just keeps going up and up and up and up. And I was like, okay, I'm so fascinated by this by then. And so the very next day, I went and dropped my entire paycheck on some Bitcoin in 2017. And then that was, I think it was maybe 7,000 then. I think it was around $7,000. And
I thought you were going to say your paycheck is 7,000. I'm like, man, I need to do what you do.
Not my paycheck. When I bought Bitcoin, when it was at $7,000. Yeah. And I just kept buying and buying and buying, pretty much up until it peaked in 2017 at about $19,000. And then
I remember those times.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So I was feeling good about myself, right? Every time I would buy it, it would just go up. Every time I would buy it, it'd go up.
Did you sell on that price or no?
No, I just kept holding. Yeah.
So you still, even after the plummet, you still hold?
Yeah. So even like I would be sitting there just feeling like, not good enough, right? Feeling like doo-doo as I was seeing my investment just crumble. And I was like, it's worthless at this point. What do I do? I was like, I'm just going to hold on to it. Eventually it could go back up, right? And so the entire bear cycle, I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. Now I check the price, every so often. And then I noticed in 2019, it started going up again. And it went from, I think it bottomed down around $3,000 or so. And then I noticed in 2019, all of a sudden it goes back up to, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, just kept going up. And then it went down a little bit and then back up towards the end of the year. And I was like, okay, I think we've now stabilized and I can start moving my chips back in. And so late 2019 is when I started pushing more of my chips back into the game. And so I haven't looked back since.
Good. I'm not going to ask you to disclose how much you've invested in Bitcoin. I, on the other hand, I don't know if I've told you, I actually used to mine Bitcoin in my bathroom, in my 2-bedroom apartment.
No, I didn't know that.
I bring a girl in and she's like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. I had like 18 GPUs. I had 3 motherboards with 6 GPUs each. Dude, it was wild. It's hot inside. I have mapped the whole apartment's fuses on Fusebox to see where I can take electricity. I undervolted them. And that was when you're saying 2017, I believe, because Ethereum was $300 at the time, 300 to 400. and it went up to 1,000. I sold on 1,000, and I sold my electronics for more than I bought it for. Because I don't know if you remember, but electronics there was expensive because everyone was buying it. And
the flip market was huge on those.
Yeah, Bitcoin by accident. Did I have half? Did I have one? Something along those lines. I sold it on 19,000 and change by accident. I was not like, oh, well, I'm very sophisticated. No, it's going to bottom. No, I mean, I knew that was the top. No. I was just like, that's a lot of money. F that, that's a lot of money. And I sold it like a few days later, it plummeted. I'm like, yeah, I knew it. I didn't know it, by the way. But that's...
yeah, you pat yourself on the back with selling at the top.
I mean, that's, look, there's nothing else. Look, I didn't know what was going to happen. But yeah, when it go back to 3 to 5, always on the verge to pull the trigger. Oh, you need to buy. So I did some buying and selling there real quick. But I have some, give and take with Bitcoin as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always wanted to do mining, but I never would go through and get all the equipment. By the time I was about to pull the trigger, the difficulty became so hard. And now it's almost like a corporate thing at this point. Now you have like publicly traded Bitcoin miners and publicly traded Ethereum miners right now. And it's like, how do I compete in my apartment? Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just for you. I had a friend who I sold the equipment to. He had the whole garage. He wired it with industrial electricity or whatever, 400 amp, 600 amp, bigger than 200 amp, like a normal house, or 150, 200 is a regular house. And he did that for a couple of years, and now he sold it because he's like, it's cheaper for me to buy it than to mine it now. So he just sold whatever he can sell. Mm-hmm. But definitely he knows a lot about crypto, and I should have listened to him more. But and I was never that interested in what exactly it does. In the beginning, I'm like, hey, it's an investment to me. That's how I look at it. All right. Well, next question for me is, what makes it the best asset, and is that an asset? What makes it an asset first, and then what makes it the best asset?
So this is kind of a complicated answer, but yes, for example, it is an asset. So it is property. There is more people nowadays, a lot of like the institutional investors and other people actually consider this as like a digital property. So you essentially own the keys to your Bitcoin, and you own it. You can transfer it. You can do whatever you want with it. So you can think of it, a lot of people are like, it's digital real estate, it's digital stocks, it's digital bonds, it's digital, name your asset. It's the digital form of that because it can do so much. Why I think it's the best asset? One, you can start with the returns, right? For pretty much since the existence of it, it's always gone up except for a couple of bear cycles. But even when you
like everything else,
yes, most things essentially when Bitcoin came out, right around the global financial crisis, right? I mean, the bottom of the market at that point, right? So most things have gone up since then. But the Bitcoin in general, I crypto too, but I tend to talk more in Bitcoin terms.
Yeah.
Bitcoin has gone up faster than any other asset since that time. So it's outpaced most other assets where like things like the stock market, other things, most real estate, unless you have, coastal real estate or Manhattan real estate or something, has kind of just gone up.
Even then, though, I think Bitcoin was like 200 a year or something like that. You must know the numbers better, but it was something like year over year. It's like crazy 200% or something like that.
Yeah, it's going up about 200% compounded. I think that might go down this year. So I'm curious to see what the numbers gone up or what the numbers look like at the end of the year on the compounded annual growth rate. Because traditionally it's been 200%. At least that's what the numbers were looking earlier this year. But most things at this point only go up at the level of money printing, right? So if you look at the charts that the Feds put out or that show the amount of money they put into the economy, most assets only go up at that same level right now. The production that you get with the economy right now versus the debt isn't quite there, where Bitcoin is outpacing all of that. And so I think just the returns in general make it the best asset. A lot of people complain about the volatility, but the volatility it's just there. It's volatile against the dollar. It's not really volatile against itself.
Oh yeah.
So there's no one there to manipulate the policies. or anything like that. Bitcoin is just Bitcoin.
Yeah,
But
what do you think about
most other industries, all manipulated. People are changing the policies, people are changing the protocols, whatever it is, in the stock market, the amount of cash, real estate, they're changing interest rates, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, they try to change 1031 exchange, which is a big thing in real estate. And yeah, they're trying to do a refinance. Actually, they did, I think, 0.5% extra and refinanced it. You're right. They're changing. And Bitcoin is kind of harder for things to change. But what about, what do you think about big players making big sales or, sell-offs, or is that possible?
Yeah, that
How
is
does it work?
possible.
And I'm really asking, this not even when I have my questions here. I don't know if they maybe see me from a side camera. I'm trying to unlock my phone to see the last question. But me as a person, I really wonder, like, how susceptible is this to group of people that are like, I know, let's sell off. I mean, everything else might be susceptible. That doesn't make it the only thing that is susceptible. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is, right? There is, it is susceptible to big players, whales moving the markets, right? I mean, before, like you talked about the miners before, the miners were the big market movers before, because the market was kind of dictated based off of when they would sell their coins that they would mine, and they would crash the market from time to time. Now you're seeing Bitcoin miners holding and hodling their Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever they're mining, as a sign that they believe the market is going to keep going up, because they know if they hold on to it, the selling pressures aren't quite there. And so it's more of likelihood that the price will go up. But there are other big whales that you see manipulate. When I say manipulate,
well,
I
yeah,
mean short-term price. I don't mean
it has
Bitcoin can't be manipulated like policy-wise, which makes it pristine and awesome. But short-term price fluctuations, yeah, which is why you see a lot of volatility. But the beauty of it is you can see that movement happening on the on-chain data. So you can see every single piece of activity that's going on the blockchain. So when a whale moves, when their whale moves their Bitcoin from their cold storage device on an offline device to an exchange to sell, you can see these inflows and outflows going. So you can kind of prepare yourself. It's not always that easy.
Yeah.
But you can see from time to time manipulation happening. And then the problem is Bitcoin and other cryptos are highly levered, meaning there's a lot of traders who take 5x or 10x or 20x margin, or even sometimes 50 times margin. And they use that to leverage to try to get more gains. But when there's a whale manipulating the price, it sends Bitcoin's price going down, which is what we saw this past week when we saw it go down about 25%.
Yeah, it did go down a lot. I'm going to ask you at the end of prognosis, or, what you think is going to happen, obviously. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's going to happen, because people say, oh, but you said this. I'm just another guy, man. But that brings to another question about the policies. Do you think there's going to be some governmental pushback? Because it's kind of so easy they allowed it. I'm so shocked. It just makes it look like, and it's not like, oh, they cannot do anything about it. Oh, they can. Like, don't we see China and a lot of other countries? They can, trust me. Back around from, they caught them, and that's not only my country, they caught the miners by increased electricity, and they went and found the miners and they just confiscated them. So do you think the United States will do some pushback on that, or why did they even allow it so easily? Just to me, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I think, so to start with, I think at first they let it happen because they thought it was a joke, right? They just thought about these cyberpunks going and creating this fake internet money. Like, who would follow that, right?
And then they realized we're millennials and Gen Z. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of times when like tech companies are they're testifying in front of Congress, right? Some people don't even, like, some of these congressmen don't even know how Facebook and stuff works. So it's they don't understand the technology, right? Yeah. And so Bitcoin it's pretty deep into the weeds of technology. It's way deeper in there than like Facebook or Twitter or something like that. And so I just don't think they understood it at first, and they played it off as a joke that these internet people had money at first, and then it turned into, it was related to some shady things going on right at first, because that's how the quote unquote criminals would use it. And so that's how, and then they tried banning exchanges or whatever it could be. But as Bitcoin became popular, it's hard to stop a open source protocol, right? So anyone can tap into it. Which is why it makes it so powerful, right? So when China, like you said, blocked it, Bitcoin actually got stronger after that. Even though we saw a 50% correction in the price, the actual network got more decentralized and stronger, and the price has actually recovered since then. For America, it is kind of challenging, right? But even the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, he seems to be in favor with Bitcoin. Other cryptocurrencies, he seems to be a little bit more difficult on because a lot of other cryptocurrencies started with what is called a pre-mine, which is they essentially give their tokens to either their buddies or they sell it to like a venture capital firm or whoever it could be to raise money to start their project. And those would actually be technically considered securities or potentially a stock that would have to be registered at the SEC. And that hasn't been happening with a lot of the altcoins. So that's something to be aware of, that the altcoins may get hit with a hammer pretty soon because the SEC chairman's been vocal about that. In terms of other politicians, we're starting to see a lot of traction from really pro-crypto politicians popping up. Like we have one from Wyoming, who is a big advocate. We have one from Texas, Oregon. Like there's more and more crypto-friendly politicians popping up, which is reassuring. But I keep hearing chatter that the next election cycle, maybe it's the midterm elections, I think would be next year, right? Or even the presidential elections in a few years, that Bitcoin is probably going to be a hot topic for candidates because the Bitcoin community has shown that it's pretty powerful and has a lot of money behind it to be able to lobby with or whoever it could be. So it's definitely going to be at a hot topic in the political agenda.
What do you think? I hear that I have a friend of mine here who's very, very passionate. He's like, Cash going to disappear by middle of this year. And by the way, middle of this year ended. Cash didn't disappear. Do you think that Cash will disappear? Like maybe one day, but I'm saying in a short term. Obviously, one day, we don't know what's going to happen in 100 years. But I'm saying like in a short term, are we going to be alive to see it?
Are we good? Like the cash that I hold in my wallet?
Yeah.
Probably not that soon. We might eventually start moving towards that direction. But if you think about cash, think about like all of these laundromats or these businesses that run on cash or whatever it could be. A lot of people use cash for like everything, right? So it's going to be difficult. What's that?
Drugs and prostitution.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm not lying. I have a hotel. We gathered together with 5 of the ATM owners in Jacksonville, and I have a hotel that makes a lot of transactions. And one of them was like, but why would you come to a hotel here in Jacksonville and have a lot of transactions? I'm like, well, bro, come on, man. You don't know why? Like, I need to tell you why. That's it. It's just, that's always going to be a thing, man. It's one of the oldest things, fighting prostitution and opiates is just one of the oldest things.
Exactly. I think it's absolutely hilarious that people think that Bitcoin and cryptos are used for like malpractice, like stuff like that. Like,
it's kind of hard. Not that I meet a lot of prostitutes, but I highly doubt they use a Bitcoin wallet. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
maybe they do. I don't know.
But the cash is the number one tool that is used for stuff like that. But politicians and other people who are negative against Bitcoin and other cryptos ignore that fact. But they say that Bitcoin is for money laundering or whatever it could be, or hiding from taxes. But it's really not the case. Most crypto people I know are pretty stand-up people, at least will abide by like the rules and stuff like that. But in terms of getting rid of cash, I don't see it really happening that soon. Most of the economy is pretty in the weeds with cash. They would have to get rid of, at least maybe they would have to start adding like, the tap things like an Apple Pay. Like every vending machine around the country would have to have those all of a sudden. Like there's a lot of detrimental things because they've rooted their weeds. They're rooted like the economy into cash.
And maybe volatility should be less maybe, so they can, if you want to buy a Coke today and it's X amount of Bitcoin, but next minute it gotta be maybe the volatility to stabilize a little bit, because that will happen eventually. I think it's going to become more and more stable.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, it'll be really expensive when it becomes at that level. We're starting to see like we have a really good use case of of Bitcoin being used as a currency in El Salvador right now. So they're dollarized and they're Bitcoinized. So they're running they're running the economy parallel. And so it's interesting to see how that's all functioning. Excuse me. But I'm hearing most of the country still isn't Bitcoinized. They still use the cash. But I imagine as they become more educated, Bitcoin is just going to spread more and more out to the country. So it's going to be a good use case to see how it functions there. But as of right now, they have Bitcoin as a legal currency and the dollar as a legal currency. So they're just doing them in tandem.
Yeah, how do you get robbed if you have Bitcoin? It's going to be a bit hard. You know what I mean? Like if you have cash, it's easier.
Yep.
If you got Bitcoin, I don't know if it's impossible, but it's pretty hard.
It would be very hard, especially if you, so the way you're supposed to have Bitcoin is you're supposed to have it in a cold storage device, which is password protected and other safety features. And so if someone is to rob you, they couldn't get your Bitcoin unless somehow they get this magical code out of your head.
Yeah, I'm looking for, I have it somewhere here. I have a, where is it? I have a ledger.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I'm not going to find it. Of course, I'm not going to find it right now.
I use the ledger as well. It's really simple. It's easy. Yep.
I don't have anything on it though.
Oh, you
But
need
yeah,
to.
I have a ledger. I've cashed it out, but it does have like 15 words in order to unlock it.
Yeah.
It's
Don't lose those words.
yeah. Actually, I hope they're here. What tips do you have for anybody new who doesn't have any crypto, but they want to start investing? In terms of, give me an advice as I want to keep it long term, or how long should I keep it?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up nicely there. Have a long-term perspective, right? The way the dollar is right now and just society is we're all so focused on the near term, right? It's just like, what's tomorrow? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? And so even like our investment portfolio or something, most people tend to turn it over and trade it instead of just holding. What Bitcoin, the beauty of Bitcoin, right, is it forces people, or it allows people to have a long-term perspective on things because of how stable the policy is. You know that there's only going to be 21 million of them ever mined. You know that every so often, or there's block after block after blocks, transactions, you know, it's just going to keep churning. There's been attacks on it from China banning it. You know, it's just going to keep surviving and growing because the biggest country in the world tried banning it. And so just being comfortable that it's going to be there is number one. In terms of just having as an investment strategy too, a lot of people, like I said earlier, are scared of the volatility. And the way to protect that would be what I do is dollar cost average. So when I get paychecks, I buy a little bit that's usually when I do most of my Bitcoin buying, is when I get a paycheck. I also have some cash on the side for when it dips. But from a new person, I would just every interval you get cash straight to Bitcoin every little bit. And over time, that'll build up. And let's say you're doing that and the Bitcoin drops 30%, it'll drop, but you'll keep buying in intervals. So it eliminates a lot of the issues from the volatility because you keep dollar cost averaging into it.
Yeah, and I just want to say to all the viewers that I did exactly the same thing when it was 2019, I believe. It was around 8 to 10K at the time. After it dropped down to 3 and 5. And I did the same thing. I think I was putting like, I don't remember, man, I was like $100, $200 a week because I get paid weekly. And I have a video about it. I actually sold it for 10K a piece. I didn't make any money on it. I think I made like $20 or something. But I bought a house with a 2 Bitcoin down.
Oh, there you go.
And I don't regret it. It was a very good deal. But I did the same thing. I just daily cost average instead of, okay, should I put $3,000 now? But is that a big price? Is it going to drop? Just go ahead and start. And once you start, it's like exercising. You know, it's hard to start. Once you find the time for it, you'll continue doing it.
Exactly. I mean, it's when you have that perspective and a long-term time horizon, and it takes a lot of the emotion out of it, right? And so you can just keep stacking and stacking. But part of that also, you have to start building the conviction of it, right? And but as you start getting it and accumulating, it forces you to learn more about it. It forces you to learn more about economy or making money or saving in general, right? Because think about like if you just hold your money in a savings account, you're losing money because inflation is virtually, or there's inflation of right now 5-6%. A lot of people like myself, I think inflation's above 10-15% if you get
it depends how you calculate. Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Yeah, but money in your bank account is getting less than 1%. So in real terms, in the real life numbers, you're losing money.
Yeah.
And so finding something that I deem is safe in a Bitcoin and just accumulate that over time is important. In terms of, a lot of people also complain about all the number of cryptos, right? There's hundreds of cryptos out there. There's meme coins, there's Dogecoin, Shiba, there's a lot of things. I would advise new people is just to focus on a couple of them, right? I focus on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a couple of them. And I try to be an expert in these type of things and just ignore a lot of the other cryptos out there, because at the end of the day, they're just noise. And probably in 5 years, 99% of them won't be there. So looking and understanding and kind of trying to be an expert, not necessarily an expert, but having a good idea of the top ones you're actually interested in will help you have that conviction for the long term to help you be more motivated and comfortable, just keep stacking and dollar cost averaging into it.
And last question, I promise, I just want to put, because I'm very passionate about taxes because I don't like paying them. What do you think in terms of taxes? How are they getting taxed? How is Bitcoin getting taxed? There are some proposal from our amazing president who he wanted to put tax on unrealized gains, which that would have been very, very brutal on anybody who decided to invest in their future. And you're taking a risk with this. It doesn't matter if you invest in real estate, if you invest in stocks, if you invest in crypto. If you do any type of investment, the government likes that, first of all. And especially if you invest whatever the government wants you to, like fracking, locating wells for oil, things like that. But if you make money on it, and you don't cash it out, they still want to take, that hasn't passed yet, but it might. How is explain to the viewers, how is the Bitcoin getting taxed if you cash it out, if you don't, long-term, short-term capital gains?
Yeah, so that unrealized capital gains would have been detrimental to the economy.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, we even saw Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk was just joking around. He's like, all right, you guys want me to get taxed on this? I'm going to sell $10 billion worth of Tesla stock, right? As a joke.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah, he did. I love that guy.
And he just likes trolling all the politicians and people because he's, I don't know, arguably the smartest man in the world, right?
Yeah.
At least successful. But in terms of how Bitcoin's taxed, the IRS has actually deemed it as property. So it goes back to the earlier question of, is Bitcoin property? It is. The IRS is, so it's essentially like when you sell it as like a stock or real estate, you're taxed on your capital gains in that sense. Bitcoin right now also has this thing called the wash rule. So if you just want to recognize some losses, you can sell your Bitcoin, recognize those losses, or other cryptos, get those losses, and then buy a different crypto or buy something else it's called like a tax harvesting rule. But I think Congress or part of the administration, I'm not quite sure, is trying to get rid of that rule. But as of right now, everything is just taxed as like capital gains and other property.
Yeah, so under 1 year is taxed on short-term capital gains, and over 365 days, I think is taxed on long-term.
Correct. So under 1 year, you would be taxed at your normal tax rate, but I think over 1 year, it's what is it, 10 to 15%?
15, I think is right now.
Yeah.
When you say property, you don't mean real estate property. Like how it's deemed. And I'll tell you why, because real estate property has different rules of depreciation.
Okay, well, yeah, you have the depreciation.
27 and a half years, you're allowed to write it off on paper. And that's why I love it. But okay, man, I told you we're going to do 15 minutes, and I think it's more than 30, but that was awesome. Ty has a channel. I'm going to put a link down below. It's called Other Kinds of Money. Other kinds of money. I'm going to put the link down below. Whoever wants to subscribe and learn about crypto, he does that. Thank you very much for being here, man. And I'm waiting for an invitation from your channel.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'll definitely have you on my channel. I want to learn more about real estate. So
I'll definitely not shut up about real estate. But thank you very much. I hope the viewers, appreciate it. And if you're here for real estate and other business, this is part of, not part of what, this is another investment strategy that you can apply. And it's not like real estate. The thing that I like about crypto is you can have $10 or $100 and invest. See, with real estate, it's kind of tough to have $10 and invest. You don't have to, when Bitcoin is 50K, you don't have to have the whole 50K, guys. You can just put 5, 10, 20, whatever you can set aside for, because it's an investment. So it's for you, it's for your future. And then, one day in the future, hopefully the prices are up and you sell and you make money. That's how it works. All right, guys. Thank you again, Ty. And you guys keep hustling and I'll see you next time.